Welcome to Learn As You Grow, the podcast where we grow every day in every way, sharing gardening tips, ideas, and inspiration to help you cultivate your best garden and self. Today, let's talk about how to choose the right survival crop for your zone, for your environment, for your hottest temps and coldest temps. What are we doing? So recently I was over at the YouTube channel Diva In The Dirt, and she had a wonderful topic about these survival crops. How do you choose the right ones for where you live? And I want to just speak a little bit about how I choose for my area, zone 4B, 5A here in Minnesota. Speak about some other countries that might have their own lists for what they should grow for survival crops. And I want to encourage you to go to the show notes, the description, find the link to the YouTube channel, Diva in the Dirt. We also had the co-host South Florida Sunshine with us speaking about her crops in Florida to hear the full story. So for me, I have four categories I want to break this conversation into. I have my high calorie storage without canning or freezing crop list. I have my eating fresh crop list. I have the quick eating stuff like, hey, I'm running out of food. What can I throw in the ground and get something from? And then I also want to talk about what actually grows here in Minnesota that we produce for our 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 people, our own state, things that we ship out in the country. Maybe some of it leaves the country to other places. So first, the high calorie storage crops that don't need canning or freezing. You have to have your potatoes. Potatoes are so common on a lot of the lists that I looked at, depending on which country or area you're from. So for me, the white potato in the russet category. For a yellow potato, I say Yukon Gold. For the red, I say Pontiac. Now, we cannot grow sweet potatoes very well here. It's not something we can rely on. But sometimes when we talk about these crop lists, instead of the white potato, it might be sweet potato for your area. Winter squash, pick your poison. Butternut, honey nut, butterbush. There's a few others. Those were the ones I would grow for myself. When you have them harvested at the right time, when the vines are dry and the stem is dry and the skin is hard, where you can't push your fingernail through it and it's cured, you wipe it down with an apple cider vinegar rag. So when it goes on the shelf, it doesn't have any lingering funguses that might cause it to go bad. You have your storage carrots. Popcorn is such a wonderful thing to have for my family because I have children. So if I can get good at growing popcorn and then having that dried and just on the shelf, ready to go, it's actually a nutritious snack. And then as well as your typical grain corn, that's a really common survival crop on everyone's list, it seems like. Having the tool to grind the corn and making your own tortillas or grits. There was something else that was made with corn, but it wasn't anything I know how to do. Pumpkin seeds. So yes, you can eat the pumpkin, but I kind of want it just for the seeds to roast and season and eat. Your beans. So typically for dried beans, you hear about, at least in my area, the white northern bean, a pinto bean, a kidney bean, a black bean. What I chose to grow, it was one called Good Mother Stallard, and the second one was called the 1500-year-old cave bean. And I was very satisfied with the amount of beans I got out of the harvest, what I can do with them. You know, it's a bigger, plumper, meatier bean versus a white northern is a more petite bean. And I've used it in chili. I've used it in soups. It makes a good paste for like a refried bean. I think now that I've done it, maybe I'll grow more of a variety of beans. We'll see. You have a storage cabbage. Cabbage has a lot of nutrients in it. It's very good for you. We got to have our silver maple trees here in Minnesota so we can have some sap running and make some maple syrup for the year. Picking out a storage onion, because not all onions are storage varieties. And of course, your garlic. We are able to store apples at the right temperature for a few months, quite a few months. Because again, I'm talking about not doing anything to them, not canning, not freezing, not drying. These are things that you go from growing to just put it up. Sunflower seeds, right? Sunflower seeds. And then I put honey. Because if we're having a garden, we're having bees. If we have beehives, we can harvest honey. I feel like that's something I'm going to call grow. Moving into eating fresh, I'm also calling growing chickens account because you can eat the eggs fresh. Now, yes, there are ways to preserve eggs, but I'm only speaking about eating it without having to do anything to it. Eating fresh, perennial fruit. Of course, there's ways to save fruit for off seasons, but again, I'm speaking in the fresh sense. Eating perennial fruits. And then your kale and Swiss chard in appropriate amounts according to your sensitivities, their oxalic acid. Having fresh greens is important in moderation. Quick growing crops. We have radish, bush green beans, sugar snap peas, green onions, and then, of course, sprouts. This need water in a jar. Those are things that if you know you're running low or you're going to need some sustenance quick, you can throw those seeds in the ground. Have those seeds in a travel case if you have to go somewhere and start all over. Now, what crops grow here in Minnesota? Wild rice, sugar beets, barley, oats, green peas, red kidney beans, sweet corn, grain corn, soybeans, and sunflower seeds. So now that I spoke about myself and my ideas of what I would do if I had to really make a choice on how to use the land and the space that I have, what are things that would feed my family throughout the year? Of course, there's so much to add to that. Your herbs for flavoring, grow your own spices and seasonings, grow all the things to preserve. I didn't mention anything that you can freeze or can and process or dry. That's a whole nother sheet of paper of things you can grow. Grow what you eat, okay? So in the research for the conversation, it's definitely sounds like it's common in the South to grow cowpeas or black-eyed peas. In Ireland, Scotland, and Britain, the list was cabbage, onions, potatoes, beets, beans, squash, and turnips. In India, we have taro root, bitter melon, bottle gourd, cowpea, chickpea, rice, and chili peppers. Thailand listed rice, chili peppers, coconut, mango, turmeric, and galangal, which is some kind of wild ginger. In the Philippines, long beans were listed, mung beans, okra, coconut, rice, cassava, squash. South Africa listed maize, sugarcane, and potatoes. I think wheat is on that list too. Australia had very familiar list of potatoes, corn, cabbage, pumpkins, beans. In the desert, wherever that may be, prickly, pear, cactus, yucca, quinoa, and agave, nectar for a sweetener. And then in the Jamaica, ackee, I think it's called, and sorrel. So if you want to hear what else was on the list or other ways to determine how to know, maybe you need help finding out your zone, head on over to the YouTube channel Diva In The Dirt. Link is in the show notes or the description below. And we also had the co-host South Florida Sunshine, who did her own episode on survival crops and more focused on the Florida people. Thanks for listening to Learn As You Grow. Be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a fellow gardener. Check out my YouTube channel, Shawnee Grows, for even more tips, and I have live streams every week. You can come chat with us live. Usually we do a discussion. Sometimes it's open. Sometimes we might have interviews. So come on by and learn. Until next time, grow every day in every way.